Good morning, this is John from Agri Supply. We're going to talk about mower blade carriers, the mower blades, blade nuts, bolts, that sort of thing. Now when you're talking about your blade bolts, there are all kinds of blade bolts. Some of them are going to have a piece of key stock here that lines up on the stump jumper, the blade carrier, whether it's a T-bar or whatever. But you'll need to be sure what you've already got, if you're not changing out everything, that you're getting one that has the right setup on it. Some of them have holes for a castellated nut with a piece to hold it in place, and some of them, like I say, have this key here. So be sure you check that out before you purchase one. Now with this particular setup here, you can see that you've got your standard 1.5 inch hole in here. The blade bolt goes on here like such, and this is how it will go on, and then this will attach to the stump jumper here. And then of course you're going to want to put, in this case it uses a lock washer and a standard nut. And this particular blade bolt here is 1.1 inch, which is fairly standard on blade bolts. Now when you look at the blade, when it's come time to replace your blades on these, you've got a couple things that you need to measure and be sure are the same. Again, you can have some minor variations in these, but you have to be sure that it's going to fit where your old one is, because it's just like a lawnmower blade. If it's too big, then it's going to scrape the sides and something's going to get broken. So measure that thing. What you're going to be measuring on this is going to be the length of the blade itself. Now what's actually working, or the working length or usable length of a blade, measures from the center of the bolt hole to the end of the blade. That length itself, actual working, is right here. It's just this edge here, cutting edge here, but it's got to be, this measurement has got to be pretty much the same, or this measurement here has got to be the same. So please make sure you give that a good look. Now there's also known as the offset or rise or drop or whatever you want to call it, and that's part of what your height adjustment's all about. There's no adjusting this. It is what it is. So be sure that you've got enough room on these. Most of them, when you measure them, are going to be approximately 2 inch, and you're measuring from the ground level here to the underside of the blade. Now you will see some measurements that are people are measuring from the ground to the top of this, but if this is the same, then the other part, assuming you measure this, you know your thickness of your blades, 1/2 inch or 3/8 or whatever it is going to be all right. But all this is doing is setting the height that the blade is going to be cutting in the ground. So it's a fairly crude measurement here of that depth. So try to get it in range. Now if it's 1.5 inch, 2 inch, and the blade you've got is 4 inch, that's not going to work. You need to be pretty close on whatever this is. You should be replacing it with the same drop or offset or whatever you want to call that. Now this last thing you'll want to consider is the rotation of the blade. Does it go counterclockwise or does it go clockwise? If you've taken your blade off, then there's no problem figuring out what you've got. If you haven't and it's still on the mower and you don't want to take it off until you're ready to replace it, just have someone jack the thing up on the end, whether it's on the tractor, so you can see what side is this cutting on, what direction does it go. Most blades are going to be sharpened on one side or the other. You do have some mower blades that are sharpened on both sides. Sharpened on both sides, it can go whichever way, but that's not going to be the case for most blades. So be sure to check that. If you've got it off, again, just hold it, look at it like this. This one's turning counterclockwise. Sharpened on this side, it's going to be turning clockwise.